just check that you can hear me because I've had some technical issues this morning. So, yeah,
I can hear you just fine.
Great. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Reg. Yeah, my name is John Patterson Williams. I think I know a lot of you. You've been spammed away by me with emails for several years now, so I appreciate your patience. I'm the policy coordinator for the Prairie Habitat Joint Venture Policy Committee, and together with my colleague and friend Ian Glass, we run these webinars. And so we're really excited to have Reg Warkentin from Team Alberta Crops here today. He does have to leave at 10:30, so I'll be as non-long-winded as I can. But I will say this is the last of sort of our agricultural themed webinars. We'll be shifting in January to a theme that has not yet been determined, but stay tuned for that. And we won't have a webinar in December. So really glad you can be here today. Really excited to welcome Reg Warkentin, and I will let Reg introduce himself and Team Alberta Crops, and we're really interested to see how Alberta's crop sector is engaging with issues around sustainability and conservation, and really glad to have you here today. Thanks, Reg.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, John, and really appreciate the opportunity. I was just looking through the people list, and I see some familiar names as well, so hello. Yeah, Reg Warkentin. My job title is Government Relations and Policy Manager with Team Alberta Crops. Team Alberta Crops is comprised of, sorry, I'll go back, 7 commissions: the Alberta Beekeepers, the Alberta Canola Commission, Alberta Grains, Alberta Pulse Growers, Alberta British Columbia Seed Growers, Alberta Sugar Beet Growers, and the Potato Growers of Alberta. This is basically our mission statement. I hate reading slides, but I'm going to because it's just says what we do so perfectly. Team Alberta Crops, we work together with the aim to provide input to policymakers, ensure long-term access to promote the sustainability of the crop sector, and advocate on behalf of farmers while enabling grassroots advocacy by our farmer members. So Team Alberta Crops is all about working together. The roots, excuse the pun, are really in the crop sector working group. This is a government-funded organization focused on agro-environmental issues. But on top of the agro-environmental issues, when the groups would come together, and it actually included a couple other groups, included the Alfalfa and the oat growers as well. But while these meetings were focused on agro-environmental issues, there was always sort of that policy piece that was kind of having in after conversations or side conversations among the crop groups. So they would informally and ad hoc partner and collaborate, the big 4 being canola, wheat, barley, and the pulse growers. A lot of this had to do with federal advocacy, so when things would come up, they felt it was really important to have like a combined Alberta voice for the crop sector. So in 2019, they started to more formalize and work together as Team Alberta Crops. You can visit our website, www.teamalbertacrops.com. You can see all our past submissions, policy, our election platform, all that type of thing. And in 2021, the decision was made to formally modernize Team Alberta Crops, sign an MOU. The group was expanded from the original 4 to include the beekeepers, sugar beet, potato growers, and seed growers. And our group is 100% farmer funded and farmer governed. So a little bit about the team. All the commissions are governed under the Marketing of Agriculture Products Act. The commissions receive a mandatory but refundable levy, and all those funds collected are directed through the boards into areas of research, extension, agronomy, market development, policy, and advocacy. And I think one of the important things to touch on is the research and extension that a lot of the individual commissions do. And while Team Alberta Crops is just policy advocacy focused, each commission has quite a large amount of their funds dedicated to research and extension, and a lot of that research is really focused around sustainability, being efficient with resources, with inputs, and just different ways to just be as efficient as possible on the farm, because we know that's what it's all about. So all in all, Team Alberta Crops is about 40,000 farmer members, about 20 million acres, and 300,000 colonies of honeybees. And we partner and work with the rural municipalities of Alberta quite often, just because we have so much in common as essentially stewards of a huge portion of Alberta, of Alberta. So yeah, 30% of all Canadian crop and honey production is our group, and one full-time staff, me, to help kind of work among the group and ensure we have our biweekly meetings to share information, figure out what our priorities are, and develop messaging. Based on consensus, members are all free to do their own thing as well. So when we're working with government, we want to make sure we're having two-way conversations. We want to make sure we're offering value to government. We want to make sure that we are being the conduit between farmers and policymakers. And of course, we want to be constructive, we want to educate, and we want to offer solutions. And all this is based on having strong relationships. And one of the things we've really found with Team Alberta Crops is the collaboration. It just makes it easier. So when you have the crop sector and the honeybees, which are counted as a crop in Alberta, working together and providing clear and coherent messaging, it just makes life so much easier for government, for the stakeholders. It's collective, it's coherent. We like to partner with a lot of these other groups as well, to work on, find areas of joint common interest and areas where we can work together. So of course this includes intensive livestock. I didn't have room for all the logos of the groups who work together, but we work with milk and we work with pork. Obviously we work with Ducks Unlimited through the waterfowl management plan, Alberta Water Council, and so on. So the way we operate is on top of our conversations that we have inside our group, we meet regularly with a lot of outside groups as well to help sort of provide that farmer perspective, help share information. So we're fortunate enough to meet regularly with the ADM for Agriculture and Irrigation. These meetings were especially frequent through the Drought and Excess Moisture Advisory Group, as a lot of our areas in Alberta either had not enough moisture, too much moisture, and so on. We are long-standing members of the Agri-Environmental Partnership of Alberta, and that's a group that includes representation from environment and protected areas, agriculture and irrigation, rural municipalities, intensive livestock, of course, crops, and a couple others. So it's a really good opportunity. We use APA, as we refer to just bring up issues that are agri-environmental in nature. And to be honest with you, the vast majority of our issues seem to be. Along with that, we're members of the Alberta Water Council and the Clean Air Strategic Alliance, again, to provide that perspective of agriculture and help contribute to solutions. We know that irrigated agriculture is one of the largest uses of water, and we want to make sure that it's being used responsibly and efficiently, and help support solutions for sustainable water use. Along with that, the Wild Boar Risk Assessment Group, this is another government group we're part of. I don't know if your group has touched on this at all, but the wild boar issue is an interesting one, and it's a bit of a threat. And again, as the intensive cropping, it's important that we're part of these things. One other thing I'll quickly touch on, because I'm not the expert, is our water monitoring project, and this is a Team Alberta project led by the staff of Alberta Grains and Alberta Pulse Growers, but it also includes a number of, I guess you would call them, corporate entities, like in the chemical sector. And what we did is what the group did, along with funding from ARDAR, is they took samples from several water bodies in farming areas, and they were able to test these samples for any traces of product used and monitor the effect if there was any water or if there was any detections, let alone any exceedances in these water bodies all throughout Alberta. And the results are still not finalized or public, but I can tell you that there has been no exceedances of any chemical used by our group. And not only is this valuable knowledge to reflect on some of the beneficial management practices being utilized, such as vegetative filter strips and so on, but it just shows it just shows that due diligence, I think. So our policy is split into 4 major areas. As you can see, I have to say that while there are separate areas, the sustainability and climate change has really been ingratiated into each sector, especially through some of the policy choices made at the federal level. And this relates to things like the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, which is the main funding vehicle used to support farmers throughout Canada. And these funding go into many areas, including the business risk management programs. And what we have seen, the trend has been to more closely tie environmental outcomes to business risk management practices. And so essentially, the government is using more of a stick to force farmers to undertake particular practices that they deem beneficial, and rather than the carrot. So that's been an interesting one for us. Our group is not in favor of the stick. We want to use the carrot. We want to undertake beneficial management practices and fertilizer reductions because they make sense on the farm. Things like intercropping is one of the policy tools to kind of look at in terms of a lever to decide if funding is allocated. We know that intercropping doesn't work everywhere for every farm. And so we just want to ensure farmers have flexibility to make decisions that are best for their farm. Many of the other files we've been working on, Indo-Pacific trade is a big one. Probably not of much interest to this group. Water management is, of course, huge. Trying to be more clever with our water. Like, we know that in parts of the province, there's a long-term soil or moisture deficiency that is really kind of coming to a head and really impacting our ability to deal with crops and so on. Land use conflict is always huge. The renewable moratorium has been a key file for us. This has our producers incredibly divided. While we want to respect property rights and the right for the farmer to use the land as he or she sees fit and make their own decisions, we also want to respect or pay special attention to the end of use recovery of these projects and what happens. We don't want another orphan well situation. And so we want to just make sure that the landowner is protected through that project's end of life. I think there is preference to have these projects on non-arable lands. And of course, with land use conflict, and this is all part of this discussion, as arable land gets taken out of production for things like renewables or for things like shopping centers or parking lots, arable land starts to move to more marginal land, and that pushes grassland out of the way. And so we've involved ourselves in conversations around the land use framework. We've provided input on the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan about trying to strengthen some of the language about avoiding land use conflict and making sure that the land use plans are more cognizant of these conflicts. A lot of issues around transportation. We reach out during the election. Prior to all the federal, provincial, territorial meetings, we really want to make sure that we have the opportunity to meet with our ag minister, and so we can kind of brief them on issues and let them know where farmers are coming out on issues like such as the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Fund, the PMRA transformation, which is a whole nother beast, and of course like the fertilizer emission reduction. I think I'll just skip this one, other than to highlight when we were talking with FSC earlier this week with their board and senior leadership, and they were asking like what is really on the horizon. And for us it's these changes in weather, not enough moisture, and we're seeing reduced average yields. At the same time, we have competitiveness and the cost of farming just sort of out of control. So those are two of the real high level challenges that we're seeing. Again, for Team Alberta, it's all about ensuring our farmers are heard. It's being that conduit between our producers and government and different stakeholder groups. It's about bringing our farmers together. We just held a event last week during Agri-Trade here in Red Deer. And we had two panels, one on land use and one about renewable. One about land use, which is basically about the renewable moratorium, and one about water. And just to sort of help ensure our farmers are engaged, ensure they're knowledgeable. And again, another touch point with government, with our partners. We had representation from the RMA on one of our panels, and we had farmers, and we had the Water Council. We had the manager of the Bow River Irrigation District to speak as well. And so just to have these conversations, get them out there, get people thinking about it, and so on. So that concludes my presentation. Hopefully left some time for some conversation, and hope you found that useful. And I hope I didn't go through it too quick.
No, thank you so much, Reg. That was really good. And I just need to confirm, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm saying after 3 years of these webinars, for the first time this morning, had some technical issues. So thank you so much, Reg. And I know that you have a commitment at 10:30, but that's great, keeping it a little shorter so there's some time for questions. So I'd like to open it up. I see Susie Miller. Familiar name. Would you like to, you can even turn your video on if you want and ask the question. So
I think my video's on. There it is. Okay, thank you, Reg. I'm quite interested in the work that you did on the water and why you decided to proceed, because compared to the rest of your work, which is kind of combining everybody together and moving in the same direction and interfacing with other groups in government, this was a very active approach.
Yeah. So I'll do my best. The project does precede my time with Team Alberta. So I've been with Team Alberta Crops for about 1.5 years now. This project goes back about 3 years. 3 years it started, and working with the crop group and working with the registrants, which is the companies that do register these chemicals. I think the intent was really to solidify the science on beneficial management practices as they pertain to fertilizer application. So we know we use things like vegetative filter strips. We don't spray within a certain proximity to a wetland and so on, right? And so what this project really did is it used sampling. Oh my gosh, I don't have the exact details. Might be able to arrange for in the future to have a presentation just on this if the group's interested with the experts in our group. But they tested for many different chemicals and many different types of farms and many different applications. They had aerial footage, they had information related to rainfall and so on, when it was sprayed, what was sprayed, the type of information that that a regulator would never receive from a farmer. We know farmers can be fairly secretive, and this was based on relationships. Our group was able to kind of work with the farmers, work with the registrants. We had to develop additional capacity for testing these products. It doesn't exist in Canada. Even for some of the products, they aren't able to get, like, it's within like a part per trillion or something for some of these. So It just really wanted to solidify data about beneficial management practice and how they relate to applications of pesticides in different products.
So are you going to do it again?
This was we're winding up the project. Funding was through ARDAR partially, and through the project proponents and through the commissions. At this point, it's still up in the air. We're trying to find an academic to help publish it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can really make it worthwhile, because we know if it's not published, it just won't have that same sort of impact. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I just want to support the publication and the availability, because I think that it's helpful data for those of us who are focused on demonstrating sort of sustainable practices. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thanks, Susie. I mentioned to you, Susie is from the Roundtable for Sustainable Crops. She's been working on that for a while. So
Great.
So you get a good mix of people on here, Reg, and I know that, when we hear about even the collaborative work that with different organizations that you're working with in your organization, I think we have that here with the PHJB too. A lot of different voices and perspectives, and so we do appreciate that diversity as well, even if we don't always agree.
Yeah, the conversations where we learn.
Yeah, definitely. So there's time. Any other questions? I saw Laura Ung put her thumbs up. Maybe did you want to ask a question too, Laura, or are you all good? I like putting people on the spot, so morning, Laura.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Reg. That was an excellent sort of introduction to what Team Alberta is up to. I don't have a question necessarily specifically. I was thumbs upping because I like the conversation and your answer to the question that Susie had brought up. But I guess just as an opportunity to build on that, I heard what she said about tying the environmental outcomes to the business risk profiles, right? And wanting to have more of a carrot than a stick approach. So then I see that, this work with the water quality and having those no exceedances in water is a great sort of outcome-based. And I'm just wondering if you guys are kind of thinking of any sort of other outcome-based kind of measurements that we could, be considering that could be a result of these BMPs. As you know, that's my shtick, is the types of BMPs that producers are doing out there and measuring that. So it could be for a conversation in a future date. But just wondering if you guys have given sort of some thought to that.
Yeah, actually last year at the same event we had during Agri-Trade, we spent trying to trying to tell the good story about the amounts of producers that, are adopting BMPs, are using the 4 Rs, and just really trying to get that number up there. Trying to encourage producers to enroll in these programs to get recognition. And of course, with the recognition, we can start publishing some of these results. So one of the other groups that we were involved in briefly, and I think, Laura, you're involved as well with the Food Measurement Index. Yes. And so trying to tell that good story. So how many producers are using this? How sustainable is your food? Like, what is the role? And we know that Alberta producers are leaders, like when it comes to adopting BMPs. I think there still is room to do better, but I think that is a good news story that we need to do a better job telling and helping bridge that rural-urban divide.
Great. Thanks,
all
Laura.
For that.
Good.
Thank you.
On the spot question. Thank you. Laura is with Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation.
Yes. Yeah.
We've crossed before.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have a question from Glenn Friesen, and he's in Manitoba and works. Maybe introduce. I forget your ministry or how you work, or where you're with, Glenn, but I should know that.
Manitoba Agriculture, yes. And so, thanks, Reg. Great presentation. I missed the first 9 minutes, so you may have said this, and so I will go back to the recording to catch up on that. But what has been what's been the response from government on this? I mean, what have you found that there's been? I mean, of course, Ms. Ung being on the call on the message here just now, it sounds like there's collaborative work, and I just wonder if you've noticed a difference in this collaboration of Team Alberta. Have you seen a little more traction on things? Have you seen more conversation? And the second sort of follow up is there been, which are two follow-ups, it's a three-part question. What role, I can't remember the name of it, but we have Keystone Ag Producers here in Manitoba. That's sort of an umbrella group that represents all commodity associations. In some respect, is really policy oriented. You have the similar in Alberta. What do they have a role in this as well, and what that might be? And then the last part is that how do you decide who's who's in the tent? Because you have other associations that are there, and they're not part of this. And are they? Maybe it's just, is it project specific or is it discussion specific? But sort of, yeah, if you could maybe highlight that a little bit for us.
Sure. Well, yeah. From the perspective of government, I can tell you that they love it, because rather than having like 7 or 8 meetings with the different commodity groups, they could have one. We show up with 3 main priorities that we want to highlight that we agree on, maybe 4. And it honestly just makes it easier for the government, whether it's elected or bureaucracy. We're speaking basically as one. We're organized, and it just, I don't know, I think it just makes it easier. I think they like it. Yes, we have reached out to groups like the oak growers, Alfalfa, and other sort of crop growers, sort of crop groups like the seed cleaners have a commission as well. We do kind of partner ad hoc on files that they have common. And I'm sorry, I forget the third part. Oh, the umbrella. We're not really an umbrella as much as I'm a linchpin coordinating these groups. So they're all able to act freely and independently if they don't agree with the rest of the group, if there's no consensus. So there is that ability. We do partner with our friends in intensive livestock on a regular basis as well, because we do know that they do share a lot of the common issues as we have. We want to make sure we're on side. We don't want to make sure we're pitting our industry against theirs. So, and really, yes, collaboration has been key. And when we're chatting with AFSC, because it's so easy to pick up a phone or have a call like this with all our different groups and get that immediate feedback from the farmer to the policymaker. And it truly does feel like a collaboration. And similarly, when we do meet at the ADM level, it feels like collaboration. We're sharing information. With past cuts in the Department of AGI, they don't have the resources they used to. And they don't have some of the extension they used to. Our crop groups do have a lot of knowledge on issues such as the PMRA transformation, and they are able to really help support the government in their discussions that they have federally. So it truly does feel like a collaboration.
Thanks, Bart, and thanks, Glenn, for that good question. And I want to honor your time, Reg. I see that it is 10:29, and you said that's when you needed to dive off. Yeah. So I know there was some scheduling mix.
Yeah, I'm sorry for having to cut it short. I did double book myself, so. No but problem. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all today and talk about our group.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that's a good inroads, even for all of us. I know there's a lot of people on this call from different groups, from the federal level to ENGOs. So there'd be lots more questions, but I would, if anyone has any follow-up ones, I'd like to reach out either through me, and I can get you connected to Reg, and we can carry on this conversation. So absolutely. Thank you, Reg, for your time. And this recording will be up on the website probably this afternoon, right, Ian? And you can watch it over and over again just to learn more. So yeah. Okay. See you, Reg. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And I look forward to seeing you in our other policy group.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Bye, all.
Bye. And thanks everyone else for coming. Wishing you a wonderful day, and look forward to seeing you in January for the next session. Take care.